The morning sun touched the golden gates of Ashford Palace as Thomas stood perfectly still. His red uniform was spotless. His tall black hat sat straight on his head. He had been a royal guard for 3 years, but today felt different. Thomas took his position outside the grand hall. His hands gripped his rifle. His eyes looked forward. He did not move. He did not blink. This was his duty. Inside the palace, young Princess Elena was celebrating her 7th birthday. Thomas could hear laughter and music coming from inside. He smiled a little, but only on the inside. A royal guard never showed emotion while on duty. "Guard Thompson," a voice called. Thomas turned his head slightly. It was Captain Morrison, the head of palace security. The captain was a tall man with gray hair and serious eyes. "Yes, sir," Thomas said. "The Queen has requested you personally for special duty today," Captain Morrison said. "You will guard Princess Elena during her birthday celebration." Thomas felt his heart beat faster. This was a great honor. Guards usually stayed outside. Only the most trusted guards were allowed near the royal family. "I won't let you down, sir," Thomas said. He followed the captain inside. The palace hallways were long and beautiful. Paintings of kings and queens from hundreds of years ago hung on the walls. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above them. They reached the grand hall. Inside, everything was decorated with pink and gold balloons. A huge birthday cake sat on a table. Children ran around playing games. Princess Elena wore a beautiful white dress with a small crown on her head. "Guard Thompson will be watching over you today, Your Highness," Captain Morrison said to the Queen. Queen Catherine looked at Thomas. She was a kind woman with warm eyes. "Thank you, Guard Thompson. My daughter is very precious to me. I will protect her with my life, Your Majesty," Thomas said, bowing. The party continued. Thomas stood near the wall, watching everything. His eyes moved around the room constantly. He checked every door. He noticed every person who came in or went out. Princess Elena was playing with her friends. She was a happy child with curly brown hair and bright green eyes. She laughed as she chased other children around the room. Suddenly, Thomas noticed something strange. A man in a waiter's uniform was walking toward the princess, but Thomas had memorized every palace worker's face. This man was not one of them. The fake waiter moved quickly. He was heading straight for Princess Elena. Thomas did not think. He moved. In 3 long steps, he crossed the room. He put himself between the man and the princess. His hand went to his side, ready to grab his weapon. "Stop right there," Thomas said in a firm voice. The man froze. His eyes went wide. For a second, nobody moved. Then the man turned and ran toward a side door. Thomas wanted to chase him, but he could not leave the princess. His duty was to protect her, not catch criminals. Guards, lock down the palace. Captain Morrison shouted into his radio. 2 other guards ran after the fake waiter. Within minutes, they caught him in the kitchen. He was not a dangerous criminal. He was a reporter trying to take secret photos of the princess. But Thomas did not know that at the time. In that moment, all he knew was that someone suspicious was near the princess, and he had stopped them. Queen Catherine walked over to Thomas. Her face was serious, but her eyes showed gratitude. "Thank you, Guard Thompson," she said quietly. "You are very alert." "Just doing my duty, Your Majesty," Thomas replied. Princess Elena looked up at Thomas with big, curious eyes. "Are you a hero?" she asked in her small voice. Thomas knelt down so he was at her level. He spoke gently. "No, Princess. I am just a guard. My job is to keep you safe." "But you protected me," Elena said. "That makes you a hero to me." Thomas felt something warm in his chest. This little girl reminded him why he became a royal guard. It was not about the fancy uniform or standing at famous buildings. It was about protecting people who could not protect themselves. The party continued, but now there were more guards in the room. Captain Morrison pulled Thomas aside. "Good work today, Thompson," the captain said. "You have sharp eyes and quick reflexes. The Queen has personally requested that you become Princess Elena's permanent guard." Thomas could not believe it. This was the highest honor a royal guard could receive. "I accept, sir," Thomas said. "I will guard her with everything I have." That night, after the party ended, Thomas stood outside Princess Elena's bedroom door. Inside, he could hear the Queen reading her daughter a bedtime story. The palace was quiet now. The celebration was over. But for Thomas, a new chapter was beginning. He was no longer just another guard at the palace. He was Princess Elena's protector. He had made a silent promise to that little girl and her mother. No matter what happened, he would keep them safe. As the moon rose over Ashford Palace, Thomas stood tall and alert. His duty had just begun, and he would not fail. Little did he know that the greatest test of his promise was still to come.
3 months had passed since Thomas became Princess Elena's personal guard. Every morning, he arrived at the palace at 6 o'clock. He checked every room. He tested every lock. He made sure everything was safe before the princess woke up. Thomas learned Princess Elena's daily routine. She woke at 7. She had breakfast at 8. She studied with her tutor from 9 until noon. After lunch, she practiced piano or painted in the art room. The princess had grown comfortable with Thomas. At first, she was shy around him, but now she talked to him every day. "Good morning, Thomas." Elena would say cheerfully, "Good morning, Your Highness." Thomas always replied with a small smile. "You can call me Elena when we are alone," she said one day. "That would not be proper, Princess," Thomas said gently. "You are royalty. I am just a guard." "But you are my friend," Elena said. Friends use first names. Thomas felt touched, but he shook his head. "I am your protector first, a friend second." Elena seemed sad, but she understood. She was young, but she was learning what it meant to be a princess. One rainy afternoon, Thomas stood outside the art room while Elena painted. He could hear her humming a happy tune. Everything seemed peaceful. Suddenly, the lights went out. The entire palace went dark. Thomas immediately pulled out his flashlight. His training took over. He opened the art room door. "Princess, stay close to me," he said calmly. Elena looked scared, but she nodded. She put down her paintbrush and walked to Thomas. He could see her small hand shaking. "What happened?" she asked in a quiet voice. "I do not know yet, but I will keep you safe," Thomas said. He spoke into his radio. "This is Thompson. Power's out. I have the princess. What is the situation?" Static came through the radio. Then Captain Morrison's voice crackled. "Storm damaged the power lines. Backup generators should start in 2 minutes. Stay with the princess." "Understood," Thomas said, but something felt wrong. Thomas had been a soldier before becoming a royal guard. He had learned to trust his instincts. And right now, his instincts were screaming that this was not just a normal power outage. "Princess, we need to move to a safer location," Thomas said. He held his flashlight in one hand. With his other hand, he gently guided Elena into the hallway. The palace was completely dark except for small emergency lights on the floor. They walked toward the Queen's private chambers. That room had special locks and reinforced doors. It was the safest place in the palace. As they walked through the dark hallway, Thomas heard a sound. Footsteps. Someone was walking on the floor above them. That floor was supposed to be empty during the day. Thomas stopped. He turned off his flashlight. He pulled Elena close and whispered, "Stay very quiet." Elena nodded. Even though she was scared, she trusted Thomas completely. They stood in the darkness and listened. The footsteps above them were moving. They were searching for something. Or someone. Thomas made a quick decision. He could not wait for backup. He needed to get the princess to safety now. He picked up Elena and carried her quickly down a different hallway. She was light and Thomas was strong. He moved fast but carefully through the dark palace. Behind them, Thomas heard a door open. Light from a flashlight bounced on the walls. Someone was following them. "Who is there?" a voice called out. It was not a palace guard's voice. Thomas did not answer. He turned a corner and kept moving. His heart was pounding, but his hands were steady. He had one job: protect the princess. He reached a hidden stairway that only senior guards knew about. It was an old servant's passage from hundreds of years ago. Thomas had studied every secret path in the palace for moments exactly like this. He went down the stairs carefully. Elena held on to his neck tightly. She did not make a sound. At the bottom of the stairs, there was a small room. Thomas put Elena down and locked the heavy wooden door behind them. "Where are we?" Elena whispered. "A safe room," Thomas said. "Very few people know about it." He pulled out his radio again. "Captain Morrison, this is Thompson. Someone is in the palace. I have moved the princess to safe room 7. This time, the radio worked clearly. Thompson, we just caught 2 intruders on the 3rd floor. They were looking for the princess. Stay where you are. Help is coming." Thomas felt relief wash over him, but he did not relax. Not until he saw friendly faces. 5 minutes later, footsteps came down the stairs. Thomas stood in front of Elena, ready to fight if needed. "Thompson, it's Captain Morrison." Thomas recognized the voice. He unlocked the door carefully. Captain Morrison stood there with 4 guards. Their flashlights lit the dark room. "The intruders have been arrested," the captain said. "The princess is safe now." Queen Catherine rushed down the stairs behind them. When she saw Elena, tears filled her eyes. "My darling," the queen said, hugging her daughter tightly. Elena was crying too. "Thomas kept me safe, mother. He carried me through the dark palace." The queen looked at Thomas. "Once again, you protected my daughter. I do not know how to thank you." "No thanks needed, your majesty," Thomas said. "It is my honor to serve." Later that night, after the power came back on, Captain Morrison explained everything to Thomas. The 2 intruders were thieves. They thought the power outage was a perfect time to steal the Queen's famous diamond collection. They did not expect to find the princess alone in the art room. If Thomas had not moved her quickly, the thieves might have taken Elena as a hostage. "You did not just follow your training today, Thompson," Captain Morrison said. "You followed your instincts. That saved the princess's life." Thomas stood outside Elena's bedroom that night, just like always, but now he understood something important. Being a royal guard was not just about following rules and standing still. It was about making quick decisions. It was about being brave when others were scared. Inside her room, Princess Elena slept peacefully. She was safe because Thomas had kept his promise, and he would keep that promise every single day. 6 months had passed since the night of the intruders. Thomas was now known throughout the palace as the most dedicated guard. He never missed a day. He never made a mistake. And most importantly, Princess Elena trusted him completely. Winter had arrived at Ashford Palace. Snow covered the gardens like a white blanket. Icicles hung from the palace windows, sparkling in the sunlight. Princess Elena was now 8 years old. She was growing up quickly. She was smarter and braver than before. But she was still the same kind little girl who called Thomas her friend. One cold December morning, the Queen made an announcement. "We will visit the northern province this weekend," Queen Catherine said during breakfast. "The people there have suffered from bad storms. We must show them that the royal family cares." Princess Elena looked excited. "Can Thomas come with us?" she asked. "Of course," the Queen said, smiling. "Guard Thompson goes everywhere you go." Thomas stood near the door as always. He nodded respectfully when the Queen looked at him. But inside, Thomas felt worried. The northern province was far away. It was a 5-hour drive through mountain roads. The weather was unpredictable. This trip would be dangerous. That night, Thomas studied maps of the northern province. He planned the safest routes. He checked the weather reports. He made backup plans for every possible problem. Captain Morrison came to see him. "You look worried, Thompson," the captain said. "This trip feels risky, sir," Thomas admitted. "The roads are icy. The mountains are dangerous in winter. And the northern province is remote. If something goes wrong, help will be far away." "I know," Captain Morrison said. "That is why I am sending you with 8 additional guards. You will have 2 armored vehicles, and the best drivers in the kingdom. Thomas felt a little better, but not completely. Trust your training, Thompson, the captain said, and trust your instincts. They have never failed you. On Saturday morning, they began their journey. Princess Elena sat in the back seat of the royal car. Queen Catherine sat beside her. Thomas sat in the front passenger seat, watching everything. The first 2 hours were peaceful. They drove through small villages. People came out of their houses to wave at the royal family. Elena waved back, her face bright with joy. But as they entered the mountains, the weather changed. Dark clouds covered the sky. Wind shook the car. Snow began to fall heavily. "The storm is getting worse," the driver said nervously. Thomas looked at the road ahead. The snow was falling so hard that he could barely see. The mountain road was narrow with steep cliffs on one side. "We should turn back," Thomas said firmly. "But the people are expecting us," Queen Catherine said. "They need to see us." "Your Majesty, your safety is more important," Thomas said. "We can visit another day." The Queen thought for a moment. Then she nodded. "You are right, Guard Thompson. Driver, turn around when it is safe." But before the driver could find a place to turn, something terrible happened. A loud crack echoed through the mountains. "Avalanche!" the driver shouted. Thomas looked up. A massive wall of snow was sliding down the mountain toward them. It was moving fast, very fast. "Drive now," Thomas commanded. The driver pressed the gas pedal. The car raced forward. Behind them, the avalanche roared like an angry monster. Snow and rocks tumbled down the mountain. The second guard vehicle behind them was not as lucky. The avalanche caught it and pushed it off the road. "Stop the car," Thomas shouted. "We cannot stop. The avalanche will get us," the driver said. "Those are our people back there," Thomas said. "Stop now." The driver stopped the car. Thomas jumped out immediately. Snow was falling hard. Wind cut through his uniform like knives. But he did not care. He ran back toward where the second vehicle had gone off the road. Through the snow, he could see the car hanging on the edge of the cliff. 3 guards were inside, trying to get out. "Hold on," Thomas shouted. He grabbed a rope from the royal car and tied it around his waist. He gave the other end to the driver. "If I fall, pull me up," Thomas said. Then he carefully climbed down toward the hanging vehicle. The cliff was slippery with ice. One wrong step, and he would fall hundreds of feet. From the royal car, Princess Elena watched with wide eyes. She was scared, but she did not cry. She knew Thomas was brave. She knew he would save those guards. Thomas reached the hanging car. He opened the door carefully. The car swayed dangerously. One at a time, Thomas said to the guards inside, "Move slowly." The first guard climbed out. Thomas helped him climb up to the road. Then the second guard. Then the third. But as the third guard climbed out, the car shifted. It started sliding down the cliff. Thomas jumped back just in time. The car fell down the mountain and crashed at the bottom with a terrible sound. Thomas climbed back up to the road. His hands were bleeding from the ice and rocks. His uniform was torn, but he had saved 3 lives. Queen Catherine ran to him. "Guard Thompson, you could have died." "Those men were my brothers, your Majesty," Thomas said, breathing hard. "I could not leave them." Princess Elena hugged Thomas tightly. She did not care that he was covered in snow and dirt. "You are the bravest person I know," she said. Thomas knelt down and looked at Elena. "Today you learned something important, Princess. Being brave does not mean you are not scared. It means you do what is right even when you are scared." Elena nodded seriously. She would remember those words forever. They turned back to the palace. The visit to the northern province would have to wait. But something more important had happened that day. Princess Elena had seen what true courage looked like, and Thomas had proven once again why he was the best royal guard in the kingdom. That night, the king himself came to thank Thomas. The king rarely left his private chambers because he was very old and sick, but he wanted to personally thank the guard who had saved his people. "You are a hero, Guard Thompson," the king said in his weak voice. "I am just a guard doing his duty, your majesty," Thomas replied. But everyone in the palace knew the truth. Thomas was more than just a guard. He was a protector, a hero, and a true friend to the royal family. Spring arrived at Ashford Palace. The snow melted away. Flowers bloomed in the royal gardens. Birds sang in the trees. Everything felt fresh and new. Princess Elena was now 9 years old. She had changed a lot in the past year. She was taller. She read difficult books. She spoke 3 languages. But she was still kind and thoughtful. Thomas had been her guard for almost 2 years now. He knew her better than anyone except the Queen. He knew when she was happy. He knew when she was sad. He could tell just by looking at her face. One morning, Princess Elena came to breakfast looking worried. "What is wrong, darling?" Queen Catherine asked. "Mother, I had a bad dream," Elena said quietly. "I dreamed that Thomas went away and never came back." Thomas stood by the door, listening. He felt his heart tighten. The princess had nightmares sometimes, usually about being alone or losing people she loved. "Thomas is not going anywhere," the Queen said gently. "He will always be here to protect you." But the Queen did not know what Captain Morrison had told Thomas the night before. There was a secret meeting, an important mission, and Thomas might have to leave the palace for a few days. After breakfast, Thomas went to Captain Morrison's office. "Have you made your decision?" the captain asked. Thomas looked out the window. He could see Princess Elena in the garden with her tutor. She was pointing at different flowers and naming them in French. "I cannot leave her, sir," Thomas said. "She needs me here." Captain Morrison sighed. "Thompson, the king himself has requested you for this mission. There is a peace summit with a neighboring kingdom. Both kings will be there. We need our best guard to protect our king." "Then send another guard," Thomas said. "I made a promise to protect Princess Elena. I will not break that promise." "The king is dying, Thompson," Captain Morrison said sadly. "The doctors say he has maybe 3 months left. This peace summit is his last great act as king. He wants you there because he trusts you." Thomas felt torn. He respected the king. He wanted to serve him. But he had given his word to protect Princess Elena. "How long would I be gone?" Thomas asked. 5 days, the captain said. "We will assign 2 excellent guards to watch the princess while you are away." Thomas thought hard. 5 days was not long, and the princess would be safe in the palace with other guards. But still, he felt uneasy. "I will do it," Thomas finally said. "But I want to tell Princess Elena myself. She deserves to know." That afternoon, Thomas asked permission to speak with Princess Elena privately. They walked in the garden together, away from everyone else. "Princess, I need to tell you something important," Thomas said. Elena looked up at him with curious eyes. "What is it?" "I must leave the palace for 5 days," Thomas said gently. "The king needs me for a special mission." Elena's face went pale. "No, you cannot leave. You promised to protect me." "I am not breaking my promise," Thomas said, kneeling down to her level. "I will come back. I swear it. But right now, the king needs me. And when a king asks for help, we must answer." Tears filled Elena's eyes. "What if something bad happens while you are gone?" Thomas put his hand on her shoulder. "2 very good guards will watch over you. Their names are Marcus and William. They are strong and brave. You will be safe." "But they are not you," Elena said, crying now. Thomas felt his own eyes get wet, but he did not let the tears fall. A royal guard must be strong. "Listen to me, princess," Thomas said firmly but kindly. "You are growing up. You are becoming a young lady. And young ladies must be brave. Can you be brave for 5 days?" Elena wiped her tears. She stood up straight, trying to look strong. "I will try. That is all I ask," Thomas said. The next morning, Thomas prepared to leave. He packed his uniform and weapons. He said goodbye to the other guards. Then he went to see Princess Elena one last time. She was in the music room practicing piano when she saw Thomas. She stopped playing. "I brought you something," Thomas said. He handed her a small wooden whistle on a string. "What is this?" Elena asked. "My father gave this to me when I was young," Thomas said. "He told me that whenever I felt scared or alone, I should blow this whistle and remember that I am brave. Now I am giving it to you." Elena held the whistle carefully, like it was made of gold. "I will keep it safe until you return." "Good," Thomas said. He saluted her formally. "Stay safe, Princess. I will see you in 5 days." As Thomas walked out of the palace, he looked back one time. Princess Elena was standing at the window, watching him leave. She waved sadly. Thomas waved back and then turned away. He had a mission to complete. The journey to the Peace Summit took 2 days. Thomas traveled with the king and 10 other guards. The king was very weak. He could barely walk, but his mind was still sharp. "Thank you for coming, Thompson," the king said. "I know you did not want to leave the princess." "It is my honor to serve you, your majesty," Thomas said. The Peace Summit was held in a beautiful castle on the border between the 2 kingdoms. Kings, princes, and important people from both countries gathered there. Thomas stood guard outside the meeting room. Everything seemed peaceful. Guards from both kingdoms were friendly with each other. There was food and music and laughter. But on the 3rd day, something went terribly wrong. Thomas was standing at his post when he heard shouting, then screaming, then the sound of swords clashing. A group of rebels had attacked the summit. They did not want peace between the kingdoms. They wanted war. Thomas drew his sword. His training took over. He ran toward the king's room. He had to protect the king. But as he ran, something else filled his mind. Princess Elena. Was she safe? Were the guards protecting her? What if the rebels attacked the palace too? Thomas reached the king's room just as 3 rebels broke through the door. Without hesitation, Thomas fought them. His sword moved like lightning. He was outnumbered, but he was better trained. Within minutes, the rebels were defeated. Other guards arrived to help. The king was safe. But Thomas could not stop worrying about Princess Elena. Something felt wrong. His instincts were screaming at him. He had to get back to the palace. "Now, Captain, I need to return home," Thomas said urgently. "The summit is not over," the captain said. "You cannot leave." "Something is wrong," Thomas said. "I can feel it. Princess Elena is in danger." The captain looked at Thomas's face. He saw the fear and determination in his eyes. "Go," the captain said. "Ride fast." Thomas ran to the stables. He took the fastest horse and rode toward Ashford Palace. The horse galloped through the night. Thomas pushed it harder and harder. He had made a promise to protect Princess Elena, and he would not let anything break that promise. Not distance, not duty, not anything. He just hoped he was not too late. Thomas rode through the night without stopping. His horse was tired, but he pushed forward. The palace was still many miles away. Every minute felt like an hour. Dawn was breaking when Thomas finally saw Ashford Palace in the distance. Everything looked normal. The gates were closed. Guards stood at their posts. Maybe he was wrong. Maybe everything was fine. But then he saw smoke rising from the east wing, the wing where Princess Elena's bedroom was located. Thomas's heart nearly stopped. He rode faster than ever before. When he reached the gates, the guards looked shocked to see him. "Thompson, you are supposed to be at the summit," one guard said. "What happened? Why is there smoke?" Thomas demanded. "A fire started in the east wing an hour ago," the guard said. "We evacuated everyone. The princess is safe. She is with the queen in the west wing." Thomas felt relief flood through him. She was safe, but he needed to see her with his own eyes. He jumped off his horse and ran into the palace. His legs were sore from riding all night, but he did not care. He ran through the hallways until he reached the west wing. There, in the grand sitting room, he saw Queen Catherine. She was giving orders to servants and firefighters. But Princess Elena was not with her. "Your Majesty, where's Princess Elena?" Thomas asked, breathing hard. The queen turned around. Her face went white when she saw him. "Thomas, what are you doing here? You should be with the king." "Where is the princess?" Thomas asked again. The queen's hand started shaking. She is not here." Thomas felt cold fear wash over him. "What do you mean she is not here?" When the fire started, guards Marcus and William took her outside to gardens, the Queen said quickly. But when I got there, they said Elena ran back inside. She said she needed to get something from her room. And where is she now? Thomas asked, his voice rising. We do not know, the Queen said, tears filling her eyes. The guards went in after her, but the smoke is too thick. We are waiting for the firefighters to. Thomas did not wait to hear the rest. He turned and ran toward the east wing. Behind him, he heard the Queen shouting his name, but he did not stop. The east wing was filled with smoke. Firefighters were spraying water on the flames. The heat was intense. Guards tried to stop Thomas from going inside. You cannot go in there. It is too dangerous, a firefighter shouted. Princess Elena is still inside. Thomas shouted back. He pushed past them and ran into the burning building. Smoke filled his lungs immediately. He could barely see. He pulled his shirt over his nose and mouth and kept moving. He knew this palace like he knew his own heartbeat. Even blind, he could find Princess Elena's room. The hallway was full of flames. The carpet was burning. Parts of the ceiling had fallen down. But Thomas kept going. Elena, he shouted. Princess Elena. He heard a small sound. A whistle. The wooden whistle he had given her. Thomas followed the sound. He turned a corner and saw her. Princess Elena was trapped in her room. A fallen beam blocked the doorway. Smoke surrounded her. She was blowing the whistle over and over, tears streaming down her face. Thomas, she cried when she saw him. I knew you would come. I knew it. Thomas grabbed the burning beam with his bare hands. The pain was terrible, but he did not let go. He lifted it and threw it aside. Come here. Now, Thomas commanded. Elena ran to him. He picked her up and held her tight against his chest, protecting her from the smoke and heat. But the way they came in was now blocked by fire. The flames had spread. They were trapped. Thomas looked around desperately. Then he saw it. A window at the end of the hallway. It was their only chance. He ran toward the window, carrying Elena. The floor was breaking apart beneath them. He could feel the heat through his boots. When he reached the window, he kicked it open. They were on the second floor. Below them were bushes and grass. Hold on to me very tight, Thomas said to Elena. Do not let go no matter what happens. Elena wrapped her arms around his neck. Thomas could feel her heart beating fast against his chest. He jumped. They fell through the air. Time seemed to slow down. Then they hit the bushes below. The branches scratched them, but the bushes softened their fall. Thomas rolled to protect Elena from the impact. They tumbled onto the grass and stopped. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Elena started crying. I am sorry. I am so sorry, she sobbed. I went back for the whistle. I dropped it in my room, and I had to get it because you gave it to me, and I... Sure, it is okay, Thomas said, hugging her. You are safe now. That is all that matters. Queen Catherine ran to them. Palace doctors and guards surrounded them. Everyone was talking at once. Thomas's hands were badly burned. His uniform was ruined. His face was covered in soot. But he was smiling, because Princess Elena was alive. She was safe. He had kept his promise. Later that day, after the doctors treated Thomas's burns and checked Elena for injuries, the Queen came to speak with him. Guard Thompson, she said formally, you disobeyed orders. You abandoned your post at the peace summit. You ran into a burning building against direct commands. Thomas stood straight despite his pain. Yes, Your Majesty, I accept whatever punishment you decide. The Queen smiled. Your punishment is this. You are forbidden from ever leaving Princess Elena's side again. You are her permanent guard. For life. Thomas bowed. That is not a punishment, Your Majesty. That is an honor. Princess Elena ran to Thomas and hugged him carefully, mindful of his bandaged hands. You came back for me, she said. Even though you were far away, you knew I needed you. I made a promise, Thomas said simply, and a royal guard never breaks a promise. Years later, when Princess Elena became queen, one of her first acts was to make Thomas the captain of the royal guard. He served her faithfully for the rest of his life, and every day, Princess Elena wore a small wooden whistle on a string around her neck. It reminded her of bravery, friendship, and a promise that was never broken. The story of Thomas, the royal guard, became legend in the kingdom. Parents told it to their children. Children told it to their children. It was a story about duty, courage, and the unbreakable bond between protector and a princess. And at the heart of every legend is a simple truth. Some promises are worth everything. Some promises are worth your life. Thomas had made such a promise, and he kept it until the very end. The end.